Good evening and welcome to Real Talk, where every Sunday night we offer insight, education, and resources to in home caregivers and those that are affected in their world, the children, the parents, the extended family, and everyone who loves them. Our goal is to offer real life topics and learning through discussing real issues and offering real solutions. And tonight I am really excited to welcome back someone who's been a guest with us before, but to talk about an entirely different topic. And that is Daniel Butcher, who lives in Los Angeles and has experience both working in the industry from the caregiver side and in the agency side. But in February of 2020, with everything going on in the world, he decided to put a lot less effort into advertising his agency and instead really focusing on something that was a passion and a growing part of our world and things that we need, which is web design. And for the rest of 2020, he dedicated his time to understanding how to create online content, finding out that by cracking the fundamentals of what this takes, it wasn't that hard, at least for him. Let's be real. If it's me and it's tech, it's an issue. But nevertheless, tonight we're going to talk about one aspect of that and discuss websites and whether or not you as a care provider need one. And this is actually a question I get a lot from nannies and newborn care specialists. So I'm really excited to talk to Daniel about this tonight because I know that helping people is a passion of his. And so this is definitely going to be a way to do that. And I know he's going to have great information to share. So Daniel, welcome.
Hello.
Good to have you.
Thank you.
For those people who might not be familiar kind of with your history, give us just a really brief intro of where you've come from in the industry, where you're at now and what you're doing, and then we'll kind of dig into our topic.
Okay, so my name is Daniel and I am from London. Well, I'm about an hour north of London. I moved to America in 2013, got a job as a nanny. Then I became kind of moved up as you do when you become a nanny. You take on a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, and then you're an estate manager making $20 an hour, and you're like, wait a minute. Like, I've taken on more and I want more money. So realized that no one was there to kind of like ask these people for more money. So I decided to, so my wife asked them for me. Where is she? I can't do mirror it. There she is. She's really good at that stuff. And it kind of like light bulb moment. Like, I'm not weak. I'm not a wimp. I'm not a baby or anything, but advocating for myself is really hard. But advocating for other people, it's much easier. So I opened an agency, and then I realized that I was doing good things, helping people get good jobs. But then I realized that I could probably do, like, getting them a job it's easy because it's one and done. But now I'm realizing that that's just the beginning of what an agency should really be accomplishing. And a lot of us, we make the placement, we check in, make sure everything's hunky-dory, but then that's it. And then maybe after a year, we'll ask the family if they want to give a raise. I mean, I'm speaking for myself. I don't know what other agencies do. But 2020 hit, and I realized that none of that really matters anyway, because now look where we are. We're all kind of screwed. And it got me thinking that I think I can do much more than just place nannies. So I have a 50-year plan, but I'm starting with helping nannies and newborn care specialists and essential workers, essentially, a lot of essential, put themselves out there a little bit more and not rely on agencies, because when shit hits, can we swear on it?
You can.
Because when shit hits the fan, they're not looking out for you. I'm not looking out for you. When shit hit the fan, I don't care how many nannies I placed. I need to make money and I need to eat, because I have a wife and a child on the way. That doesn't mean I'm a heartless monster. That just means I'm prioritizing my needs over your needs. So I got a lot of emails over 2020 from nannies that just sounded very desperate and a little scared. And they were relying on me because I positioned myself as an agent and an expert to find you the best jobs out there, because that's my job. But there were no jobs. Generally speaking, I mean, we all know there's always jobs, but for the masses, it was hard. So Now I'm stepping away from the agency and I'm just working for myself and helping people get out there to brand themselves better. And if they can't advocate for themselves, then I'm going to advocate for them, honestly, whether they want me to or not. So that's what I need help with. I need to, I have this passion now and I need to find a way to harness it. But again, that's another talk. I do websites for nannies, super cheap and super good.
Perfect. And so, if I'm hearing you right, what I'm hearing is that this change that we all encountered because our industry was impacted in a massive way by
Mhm.
this really kind of changed your perspective on how you want to help people and that you want to help them help themselves. Am I hearing that right?
Pretty much, yes. I don't want to position myself as an expert that has all the keys to the kingdom. I want to like position myself as someone that is learning, but I'm just ahead of you on the learning curve because I started when everyone was scrambling to make money to eat. My 2019 agency was so good for me that I made over 2 years of 2 years, like I make 52 grand a year. That's all I need to survive on. That's all my agency pays me. So I made enough in 2019 to pay myself for 2019, 2020, and then half of 2021. So I didn't have to worry about money and all this like, everything that everyone was going through. I just kind of pushed it to one side and focused on what I love to do, which is video games, uh, technology, and helping people. And I realized that none of those things involve childcare. So that's when I realized that I can scale this, but I do want to start with the nannies because I know that industry more than any other industry.
Mhm. And I think taking that and harnessing it, we can look at the fact that everybody's looking online for help, for information, etc. And so I get that question a lot. Should I create a website? And I would say absolutely yes. Whether you're a nanny or whether you're a newborn care specialist, it helps get your name out there. But of course, the next question I get all the time is, well, what does this cost? And so that's one of the things that you've said is a goal. You want to do this affordably for people. You want to make it so they can do it.
Mhm.
So, what are some of the things if somebody wants to build their own or if they want to work with you? What are some of the things that they need to look out in terms of like we hear a lot of terms and I know what they are, but I still don't know everything about what they do. But like if somebody says to you, well, I've been told I need to check out a web platform. What is that? What is that? What do they need to know?
So, sorry, I should have had it. Oh, I do have a glass of water. Look at that. Cheers. So there's web building platforms that people always gravitate to because they're cheap and easy. So it's Squarespace, Wix, Weebly, things like that. Shopify. Most of the nannies I went to Wix. Wix is where I started because it's like drag and drop. So when you say cheap, drag and drop, easy, of course everyone's going to flood there. Which I did. I was given Wix lessons in like April or something, but then in May I was like, actually, Wix sucks, and I left. So I'm like, people are coming to me angry because they're like, you told me to go to Wix, and now you're doing WordPress. I'm like, um, yeah, sorry, try and keep up. Like, I feel really bad, but I'm also everyone I made a Wix website for, I just made it for them on WordPress for free and just migrated them across. So it's like, yeah. So you have website builders that claim to be cheap, but they're not because they get you in at a low cost and then you're theirs for eternity. And then to try and get out of it, really hard. They make it very, very difficult to leave them.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to get ahead of the game with the nannies and people now and say, don't do Wix, Weebly, Squarespace, blah, blah, blah. Don't do that. Just do me, basically, because I'm building in a system called WordPress, which everyone's heard of, but nobody really knows what it is, and everyone gets super intimidated by it. But the way I use WordPress is very simple. It's drag and drop. I'm building nannies' websites on my phone. Like, it's very easy. I want to pass that ease onto the nannies, but I have to do it in a way that doesn't intimidate them, because I was terrified. Like, I stayed away from WordPress for about 7 years. It took me 7 years to pluck up the courage to like delve into website, because I'm not a coder. I'm not, that dude that's drinking Red Bull and like da. Like, that's not me. I hate being in front of a computer. So, but then when I got into it, I realized that it's not that hard. And then the further I dove into this whole world, I realized that none of it's hard at all. And people that know technology, they know it's not hard, but they're just not telling the layman's, because they charge up the butt for it when you don't need to. So I'm basically creating WordPress websites for nannies starting at $100 and going up to a maximum of $500. And then rather than them having to come to me and be like, but I want to change this dot to a dash, or I want to swap out this picture, I'll do it for them, and then I'll record it, and then I'll post it on YouTube. And then I'm like, okay, I did it. Here's the recording. Don't ask me again, because I've taught you how to fish. If you come to me and ask me the same question again, then you're just lazy, or I'm not communicating my intention to you. But it's not that hard. I can answer any question, but the problem I have is I don't know what to say, because I don't know what is needed. But if you have questions, I can answer as many of them as I can to the best of my knowledge. I can tell you what the difference between a URL and a domain is, what hosting is, who is a host, what is a host, who owns the data that people put into your website. Like, well, I guess maybe I do know some stuff. Yeah. Well, ask me stuff and I'll fill in the gaps.
Right. So one of the things I want to know is, so if somebody is like me, and I'm just going to be honest with you, yes, I'm capable of learning these things. I don't want to. So if somebody doesn't want to, if they're in a position that they can do that, obviously they can hire somebody to do it. But if they're in a position where they want to learn, what are the basics? What are the core things they need to do, that they need to understand?
They need to understand what a domain name is and what hosting is. Okay. They need to understand what email is and how it connects to these different things, because they're all very different, but they all work together. Because I mean, you use software. You use softwares. You have a booking system. You have marketing like ClickFunnels. All these things that's like, I learned all that in 2020. That's why I'm like pumped. But if you want to learn how to do it and you just want to like dip your toes, then you should buy a domain name. You should buy some hosting. You should do all this through WordPress and not through Wix or Weebly or Squarespace, because that just sends you on the wrong path. That path that you head down is not a path that you can scale. So just don't bother, because everyone wants to scale, whether they say they do or they don't. They do.
So for those people who might not know, what's the difference between buying a domain and buying hosting?
So I have over 500 domain names, but none of them are hosted anywhere. They're just, so you can buy a domain name for about $15, but you don't own it. You don't own that name. It's just a name that's out there. The person that owns it is the registrar, and a registrar can be, again, GoDaddy, Wix. They're all registrars also, because they want to become a one-stop shop. So do I. I want to do that too. So I have 500 domains names, but only maybe 12 of them are hosted. And what that means is you rent a space on a server that holds your data. Okay. So you're basically paying for storage. You're paying for storage, just like iCloud, OneDrive. It's the same thing. Cloud equals hosting.
Okay.
basically. So the more you host, the more you pay, and the larger your demand on the server becomes. So that's why I don't see any harm with a nanny having a basic 3 to 5 page website with a couple of pictures, because to me, business cards are dead and the website is the new business card, basically. So I'm trying to shift people's mindset into thinking, rather than asking, should I have a business card? Because most people are like, oh, you should definitely have a business card. But then when they ask, should I have a website? It's like, I don't know if you should have a website, but you should definitely have a business card. It's like, guys, like,
Yeah, not right now,
no.
especially, but I think you're right. I think the future is headed this direction, period. And we need to be in the digital space if we're not. And I 100% agree with you also that a nanny or a newborn care specialist having, even if it's very simple, having a website can be huge, because yes, there are always going to be people who use agencies, but there's also a lot of people that are up at 3 o'clock in the morning searching. And if they can find you that way, that's another way to connect with potential employers. I think that's great.
And a quick disclaimer, I will just say this. There are there's less than 10 agencies that have come to me and they're not happy that I'm doing this.
They're not what?
Happy.
Yeah.
I'll leave that there. That's all I want to say.
So if somebody has a website and maybe they want to deal with people directly, how do they deal with like managing that? Like, does email automatically come with a website, or is that something that has to be added on? Or maybe if they're doing temp work, how does all that work in terms of kind of managing things with the people that are reaching out to them, their clients or their customers or potential families?
Well, I tell them that all they really need is just a simple form, name, email, message, because at the end of the day, that's really all you really need. If you want to engage with them immediately, there are softwares that give you a notification when somebody's on your website, and you can basically just sit back and just watch them move through your site. Like, they just click this link, now they're here. They stayed here for 20 seconds. They're still here. Oh, and now they've gone here and they've just left your website. And it's really fun. So I did this, and I put this little widget onto a few of my websites, and I just sat back for a few hours and I put out something on Facebook, like, hey, click here to read, I don't know, about duck, like whatever I did, I don't remember now. And I just watched them move through my website and this is what Google does for people, because they have Google Analytics and they have the Google Search Console. And that's basically what they do, but they use a computer that costs a lot of money, but I just have me in my brain. So I just am watching how they move. But then I found out that you can get another little widget that not only follows and tracks their every movement, but you can also communicate with them without them communicating with you. So my phone clicks off and says, you have a visitor on this website. So I open it up and then I say, hey, what's up? And then it pops up on their screen. They're like, well, 95% of people ignore it because they think it's a computer just popping up, because that's what we're so conditioned to believe. So then I add something else in, like Team Jacob or Team Edward, like just something dumb and stupid to capture them, because of data laws and what's the word? Opting in. You can't start a conversation with someone unless they start a conversation with you. Legally, I'm paraphrasing here. There's like different, and we're not going to get into the European laws that are just happening now, but it's very easy to interact with someone. You just either have a proactive little widget where you can reach out. That's a bit of an overkill at this point. I just think a simple lead capture form is amazing. And I also think that Facebook now allows you to put your messenger widget on your website. And that's excellent, because it just helps a lot, because then because every time you see that little blue lightning bolt, you're also thinking, oh, I know, like, I trust Facebook. I know Facebook. Facebook has all my information. If they're using Facebook to communicate with me, then I'm more receptive to communicating with you digitally, but on your website, because you have a Facebook widget. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you just have to piggyback off of other people's success as well.
Absolutely. So,
I piggyback off yours all the time.
yeah.
Yeah, I look like an expert because they're like, "Oh, I want to get my newborn care," and I'm just like, "Well, let me tell you." And I just pull up your website and I read a few things, and they're like, "Oh my god, you know so much," and I'm like, "I don't know anything, but here you go." And then they're like, "Thank you."
Yeah.
So yeah, you just
I'm
have to.
very fond of saying, I'm quoting, think it's Henry Ford that says, you don't have to have all the answers, you just have to know where to find them.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It works. So, one of the things that we hear a lot of talk about, but I don't think a lot of people understand, is something called SEO. So, a lot of people think you just make a website, throw it up there, and everybody finds you. It
That's what I
doesn't
did.
quite work that way. But can you give us just a real basic explanation of what is SEO and why does it matter? Or does it?
This is a subjective question, so I'll give a subjective answer. But I don't, I don't do SEO anymore. I tried, but it's like trying to change a diaper on a baby that just learned to do cartwheels 24/7. It's like it's hard, basically. But it stands for search engine optimization, and it's basically a set of rules that search engines such as Google use in their algorithms to give people that type into the search bar the most relevant information to them based on what they typed. So SEO is basically trying to cheat the system into optimizing your website to be up the top, page one.
Mhm.
So then you start hearing about keywords, and well, I guess we don't need to jump in, but you have keywords, and so people just start blasting keywords all over their page. So you would, like, I did it too. I had a page title on my agency that was losangelesnannies.com / click here to find your perfect caregiver. Like, that was the website. Or sorry, that was the slug, which the slug is the little part that comes after the main domain name URL. SEO, I think, is going to be really good for newborn care specialists because the term and the word and the phrase is, in the grand scheme of things, in its infancy. So there's a ton of opportunity for newborn care specialists to use that terminology really well. But what I'm finding out is, this is a little nugget for you actually, which is kind of cool. If because you're positioned as an industry leader, I would say, I think that's a pretty fair assumption. You can control the internet if you wanted. Basically, what you would do is you would start up a new phrase or word, because I'm doing it too right now, but they're going to be on like page a billion of Google. But if Tanya starts saying, I don't want to call you guys newborn care specialists anymore, I'm going to call you newborn, insert something really intelligent that I don't know what to do. And then if you start putting that on your website and then giving people your logo, and your logo has that in there somewhere, you know, in the techie stuff, you have alt tags and things like that. If you put that thing, Tanya's Cool Crew, whatever, into your image, then every time someone uses your logo, you now have a backlink with this new phrase that you've created out of nothing. So now you have no competition for this keyword or this SEO, but you also have no reach because you're just one person, but you're an industry leader, so you do have reach. So the more you push out this new imaginary word that you just created into the world, the more it's going to get picked up and the higher it's going to rank. Like, I mean, Google is a pretty weird word, but they did some pretty good things. And it's not because they're hyper intelligent. It's because, well, who was it? What president? Mr. Ford?
Pardon me?
Who was the president that said you just have to know people?
Ford. It
Ford.
wasn't president, it was Henry Ford.
Oh, okay. What was he? Was he?
He invented Ford Auto Works, you know, the cars.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, well, then he knows.
Ford Motor Company, that's what
Okay.
it was.
All right, he knows. You had a Ford president though, right?
We have had a Ford as a president, yes.
See, I know things.
Yeah. Long time ago.
But yeah, make up an imaginary word, add it to the alt tag of all your images, all your paraphernalia, all your marketing that you have online, and watch what happens. You'll because I'm watching my imaginary word that, and you don't even the good thing is you don't have to tell people what the word is because it doesn't matter. You just hide it, and then in a couple of years, I'm telling you so many good things. But what I did is I've thrown up some totally arbitrary words like flippity dobbity beam bong boogle. Like I've kind of like made that into a 2-syllable word, and now I'm peppering it out in the world. And every few months, I type it into Google, then I find my page, and I click it, and I go around the site and just kind of make myself at home. And if you have to play the long game with SEO. It's not and I used to think that people were saying that to me because they're like, give us $900 a month, but just wait 6 months because you're not going to see any change until you've paid us $8,000. And then if you don't see a change, sucks to be you, but it's great to be us because we just made a lot of money and you didn't see any change. So SEO is definitely a long game. It's not something that you can just optimize your site and then sit back and wait for the money to roll in. But yeah, if you want to do SEO, start now and then wait a couple of years and then see where you're at, basically.
Yeah, I would agree also that it's a long game. And when we first did our website, when we very first started the company, I didn't know anything about SEO, so we didn't even have it. And then when
that's the thing. Wait, I'm going to interrupt. Sorry. If you have content on your website, then you do have SEO.
We didn't have intentional SEO.
Yeah, because there's these plugins on WordPress that, Yoast. Oh, we'll just go with Yoast. Yoast SEO is super simple. It's like traffic light: red, amber, green. If it's red, your engine is not your engine. Your website is kind of sucky in the SEO department. If it's green, that's awesome. But some people install Yoast on their website and then every light goes to green immediately because they have they have made their website optimized without even knowing they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to have a plugin to show, but every website has SEO. It's just either good or bad, basically.
Yeah. We just didn't do anything intentionally because we didn't understand it and didn't know anything about it. But once we started being intentional about it, it did. It took a few months for it to grow.
That's great.
And it's our SEO is pretty good now. We rank pretty high in search engine most of the time. So
nice. But yeah, I don't think that newborn care specialists need to worry about SEO. Honestly, mm-hmm. I don't think they should try and compete with agencies when it comes to SEO because agencies need volume. You need volume. Newborn care they don't need volume unless they want to start a newborn care specialist business.
Right.
They just need 4 families a year. Mm-hmm. to make what, 150 grand, and that's done. To find 4 families a year, you don't need SEO, you don't need advertising, you don't need marketing. You just need to know one prior client that you did an amazing job for, and just say, hey, I have some free time between this date and this date. Did any of your friends go at it like rabbits during COVID? Because things are about to go crazy, and I just need to line up my year. Mm-hmm. Like they don't need to worry about any of that, but they do need a website.
Yeah, absolutely. So the one other thing that I want to ask you about, because I get this question a lot, is, and I know what our traffic is on this. I don't know how you would feel it applies to an individual nanny or an NCS, but does a website need to be what's called mobile responsive?
Yes.
So can you tell people just in general forms, what is that and why it matters?
Mobile responsive is when you go to someone's website on your phone and it looks really crappy. That is not mobile responsive. What I'm trying to do now, because I now design, I'm like, why am I designing people's websites on my computer when they just go to their phone to look at the website? So now I'm designing the website in my phone so I can see. Now I can see what it's going to look like right away, because that's what most people did. When you design websites, people told me when they were designing websites for me, they start with the biggest screen. Like I'm speaking to you right now on an iMac, so it's like this, but then I also have this, this. Like I have a lot of different screen sizes. So mobile responsive is basically making your website responsive on a different device. Most people go for iPhone or Android, but then there's also these other phones that you cannot. It's really hard to optimize a website for every single screen size because like I have some clients, some web nanny people that are like, I like how the picture looks on the computer, but on the website, on the phone, it doesn't look like that. Can you make this look like that? And I tried and I tried and I tried, and I'm just like, no, I can't. Like, but your mobile phone website looks amazing. It just doesn't look exactly the same as this screen. But how can it? Like, I'm not going to ask my 4-year-old to look like my 12-year-old because they're two different sizes.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people don't always understand that. But as a general rule of thumb, at least for me, the great majority of people, I would say about 3/4 of the people who visit our website are visiting it via a phone.
Yeah, I don't do I don't create websites that look appealing. I'm gonna dig myself a hole here. I do create websites that are appealing, but my focus is on the mobile appearance and not the desktop appearance.
Right.
And also, even better, this is the best part now because I'm designing on mobile. It's getting me into the app field, which is huge. But that can be another talk. I need like another year on that, but that's going to be massive. Now all my websites are made into apps, and they're on my screen right here. So like these are all normal, but the ones at the bottom, I have Los Angeles Nannies there, I have my personal website there, and I have a placement fee calculator there. So if I'm on the phone with someone, they're like, we want to pay them $25 an hour, 40 hours. Well, that's an easy one. We want to pay them $37.43 an hour for 40 hours. I just type it into my calculator and I'm like, oh, it's going to cost you this much with this much of a replacement window, this much with this much of a replacement window. And like, now that is an app on my phone. And now every website I create, I'm going to turn it into an app and I'm going to make it look like an app, but it's not an app. It's just a web page. So yes, make it mobile responsive. And if you can, make it into an app, because then you can send people push notifications. And when you can send people push notifications, then you have $1 million business.
Fantastic.
But newborn care specialists don't need $1 million business. So they don't need all this stuff. All they need is a very pretty website that they can manage. And rather than sending people their business card, they can just send them a URL link, a QR code, whatever. QR codes, that's another real talk. They've been around so long. I feel bad for them. I'm glad that they're finally getting their time in the sun.
Right. They were a big deal when they came out, and then they kind of disappeared, and now they're coming back.
Yeah. And they're going to come back with a vengeance.
Right. So I would say I agree with you that a nanny or newborn care specialist doesn't need a lot of on a website unless they have bigger long-term goals. And if their goal is to have an agency or to maybe be in consulting or things like that, then there might be a reason for a more powerful kind of website. Is that correct?
Yeah, and WordPress sets you up really well for that because you're not tied down. Like, because if you're in Wix or Weebly, you have to use Wix scheduling, Wix payment port. Like, you have to use all their stuff because you're in their little thing, and you're protected and you're safe, and that's what they want you to think because you are. But you're paying for the privilege of being safe. You know, just like America, I guess. You pay a lot to live here, but you're free. So the basic premise is get a WordPress website, have it super basic, and then just scale as you grow. But don't don't think you can scale in one of those self-built drag and drops, because you'll be too confined, and it's a slippery slope because they lock you in for like 3 years. I just had to get the newborn care specialist that I made a resume for. I had to go, like, she had to get out of her. She paid them 3 years, and I was like, get a refund right now, because it's been less than 14 days, and I'll make it on WordPress. So the money, and I charged her $100. She gave me $300. And then I took that $200 and I made 2 websites for nannies, and I didn't charge them because I already got paid. She paid it forward for 2 nannies to get a website done.
Fantastic. That's amazing. So we've talked about a lot today, and a lot that's probably a bit overwhelming, but I want to ask one more question, and then we'll kind of tell people how they can reach you. So is there anything else that, as we're talking around this topic, that you think it's really important that people who think they might want to do a website, is there anything else you think is important for them to know?
Yeah, just come to me, because I need money and I have a baby coming soon, and I won't charge you much, I promise. But no, really, no, just buy a domain name, find some cheap hosting. If you need hosting referrals, come to me, but I'm going to refer myself. But you can just Google it, best hosting platforms, best place to buy a domain name. Just type in best place for, and then whatever you want. Read the top 3 things, and then you'll have your answer to anything in life, actually.
Fantastic. So if you are interested in reaching out to Daniel about his services, you can find all of his contact information in our feed. And so I want to say, Daniel, thanks for joining us on Real Talk. As always, it is encouraging and fun to chat with you. And I know that you've shared some great takeaways for our audience. You've educated me on a few things, and I know a fair amount around this topic, so I appreciate it. And I know you do too.
Nice. Cool. Yeah, this was fun. Like, that's what I'm learning. I'm learning, like, I love tech. So why am I trying to place nannies when humans I can't stand, there's too much fluctuation in human emotion. You and I know that very well. So
I had an agency too. I was like, I want the job. I want to work with the families, and I want to educate people. I don't want to have an agency.
Yeah.
And I sold it.
Yeah, that's what I'm not selling it, but I'm not running it anymore. I just made my assistant full time, and I'm training her up starting next week, and she's training her assistant, and then we're going to start recruiting for that assistant. Like, we're on a good path. It's going to be a fun year.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us. And if you have any questions about this topic or anything related to working with websites or working with Daniel, put them in the feed and tag him or tag Newborn Care Solutions, and we'll make sure that it gets to him and you get an answer. And if you're wanting to rewatch this segment or catch any of our other Real Talk episodes, including some that include Daniel, then you can go to our website and click on the education tab. So it's newborncaresolutions.com and click on education. And you can now find us also on YouTube. All you have to do is search Newborn Care Solutions. So thanks for joining us, and have a great evening.
Bye.
Bye.